Hello everybody, this is Kyrix with the first of my Star Wars audiobook reviews. This is Star Wars A New Hope, The Princess, the Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy, which is a retelling of Star Wars A New Hope. Name of the author is Alexandra Bracken. I actually took a while to put this one down because for some reason I was under the impression that each of the three parts was its own book with a different author. Because I think I might have seen them separately, but turns out I didn't. It is narrated by Mark Thompson. Sorry. The brief summary of this one is that it's a semi-original retelling of Star Wars A New Hope based on the old audio drama. I say semi-original because there's some new stuff in it, but for the most part it is the book. Moving on to my thoughts. Story itself split into three parts. The part of Leia, the princess, which begins at the start of the movie and ends shortly after the destruction of Alderaan. Second part, that of Han Solo, the scoundrel, picks up from there and carries on until around the death of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Finally, Luke Skywalker, the farm boy, is the last part, starting where Solo's tale ended and carrying on to the credits. While the story does manage to hit most of the bases, some things are skipped over, such as R2 and 3PO's trip through the desert, and all of Luke's time on Tatooine until reaching Mos Eisley. While the book doesn't go into detail on these moments, it does mention most of them, so you shouldn't get too lost. Likewise, the book naturally assumes that you're familiar with the source material before reading it. In addition, entirely new sections are added, such as Leia being marched through the Devastator, which is Darth Vader's personal Star Destroyer from the movie, and her interrogation. A lot of Han's thought process is shown, and most entertainingly to me at least, Luke's first two times in the X-Wing simulator, which goes a long way towards establishing both his highs and lows as a pilot. Moving on to the scoring, we'll start with the characters. There aren't really any new characters introduced in this book. You might have like a low text somewhere or something, as it was in fact based on the movie, but what was shown was very insightful and very true to these characters. I feel I know them a little better having been exposed to this book, so we're going to go with a 4 out of 5. Setting. This book hits the familiar settings to some degree. You spend a little bit of time on Captain Antilles' ship, the Tantive 4, which apparently I've been pronouncing incorrectly for years. You go to the Death Star, you spend a little time on Mos Eisley, Yavin 4, the Millennium Falcon. They did cut out the rest of the time on Tatooine, like the Moisture Farm, the Dune Sea, and all of that. But as mentioned before, in its place, you do get time spent on the Devastator, or at least the bridge, the docking bay, and a couple of the lower decks. Personally, though, the less time you spend with C-3PO, the better it is for me. So we're going to go with a 4 out of 5. Story. The story is, of course, that of the original movie. If you liked A New Hope, you're probably going to like this book. However, also as I mentioned earlier, that doesn't mean there's nothing new to be found here. And for those wanting to immerse themselves in every aspect of Star Wars that they can get, this is definitely worth your time. We're going to go with a 4 out of 5 for this. Narration. Now, there's nothing wrong with the narration of the book, though it is worth mentioning that, unlike most of the audiobooks, this one contains multiple voice actors. I don't have great attention when it comes to voices. Sometimes I can't pick apart a different actor versus a different voice, but to my ear, there are at least 4 distinct voice actors for the important characters, if not more, which really does help get you into the story. And as with other books, nearly all of them, if not all of them that I'm familiar with in the Star Wars franchise, they use a lot of the sound effects, like you'll hear the hum of the lightsabers, the screech of the TIE Fighter, and the beeps of R2, which will help get you even more invested. And that's going to give you a 5 out of 5 right there. Moving on to the lore. Now, being a faithful retelling of New Hope, you wouldn't think there's much you could add to the lore that wasn't already there, but you'd be wrong. As I mentioned before, Leia's interrogation was covered in detail, and likewise, her first meeting with Emperor Palpatine is mentioned in a flashback. Luke's first time in the simulator is shown, a bit more of his relationship with Biggs and Wedge are brought into the light as well. So a casual lover of Star Wars might dismiss this as just, light trivia, but someone like me who just adores this franchise, I eat it up. So, 5 out of 5 for this. Now, Immersion. This should make or break it right here. A New Hope, to me, was very wonderfully retold in this tale. While it is full of familiar faces, they're shot from new angles. You get to see more of their thoughts, delve into their past, and the book's decision to focus entirely on 3 characters rather than just go from person to person and place to place during the most prominent points serves to streamline the story and give it more attention to each one of them. While I've never particularly hated the Rebellion trio, I have definitely come to like them a lot more after this book. As I stated before, this was based in part on the audio drama, which I've never heard it myself, but I've heard good things, and I can't compare the two, but I've also heard that this compares rather favorably to it. We're going to go with a 5 out of 5 for Immersion, so all in all, let's sum this up. It comes out to a 4.5 out of 5, and I would definitely recommend this to any fans of the Star Wars franchise, and especially fans of the original trilogy. So, that was my review of Star Wars A New Hope, The Princess, The Scoundrel, and the Farm Boy. And I hope you will pick it up, especially if you found this informative. And I will see you with the next review. Later. Bye-bye, everybody.